Is this good? Yeah? Fantastic. Okay. Hi, good morning. So happy to be here with you. It's been so nice getting to know you guys over the weekend. This has been an amazing retreat. And I'm happy that we get to spend a little more time together before we all go out to our respective communities and return to the routine of our lives, right? So, you know how people like to group themselves according to similar types, like cliques. People like to congregate with people who are similar to them. And we see this very distinctly in the ecosystem that is known as the high school lunchroom, right? So what table do you sit at? You have the athletic kids and you have the academic kids. You used to call them jocks and nerds, but whatever, now let's be more nice about it. So academic and athletic, and you have band kids and you have theater kids. You have kids who maybe don't fit in and kids who are rebelling against the world already. And it's very fraught with drama, and it's important with a capital I because where you sit and who you associate with really defines you when you're at this stage of individuating from your family. And thankfully we all grow and mature, but even though we grow and mature out of this mindset, we still like to associate with people who we feel represent us, who are similar to us. And that's how we get all of these labels that you see in life. You have stay-at-home moms, and you have working moms, and you have soccer moms and dance moms and stage moms and homeschooling moms. There's a lot of categories just for moms. And you have DIY people, and you have tech people, and you have sports fans, and you have sports fanatics. You have introverts, you have extroverts, you have morning owls, and you have morning people, night owls, type A, type B. We have all of these different types. You have people who drink coffee and people who somehow manage to exist without coffee, which I don't understand. My husband is one of these people. He doesn't drink coffee. He doesn't drink coffee. I don't understand it, but he manages to function well. Huh? You also don't?
Oh, my wife.
Ah, so there you go. So I'm happy for you. I need 2 cups of coffee before I'm a human being. Yeah, okay, so, but and look, we all get along, even though we are different. Fantastic. I saw a really funny example of this tendency to affiliate ourselves with people that we feel represent us. A couple years ago, 1 or 2 years ago, there was a speech going around online. There was a military general, retired, who was giving a commencement address, and he was telling these kids who were graduating how to have a successful life. That's what we usually do in commencement addresses. And he was saying, make your bed in the morning. That is the key to a successful life. Just take the 2 or 3 minutes and make your bed. That's going to set you up for success. And so all of these people were sharing it online. They were saying yeah, I knew that I made my bed for a reason. Yes, this is very validating. This is why I'm successful. But at the same time, there was an article going around that said people who are successful are the ones who don't make their beds. And there was a study that proved this. And so then I had a whole bunch of other friends who were saying yeah, that's right. I knew there was a reason I don't make my bed. That's why I'm successful. So I was cracking up, and it was also very comforting because then I know no matter if I make my bed or if I don't make my bed, I'm going to be successful in life. So that's good. We like to spend time with people who we feel represent us and who we feel are similar to us. There was a research study that said there might even be a biological component to this. We might be physically hardwired to seek out people who are similar to us. But I don't know about you, I don't think that there needs to be a study to explain why this is, right? Is it more comfortable to spend time with people who agree with you or people who don't agree with you, right? When people agree with you, it's validating. It says, yes, I'm doing this thing called life right. It's comforting. It feels good. And when you spend time with people who disagree with you, it creates tension and cognitive dissonance. And sometimes it even makes you reassess what you're doing with your life, which is very uncomfortable. Fine. But do we agree with our friends on every single issue in life? No. It's pretty much impossible to agree with another human being on every issue. So when we have these relationships, these personal relationships, we usually just agree to disagree, right? And you avoid difficult topics. Thanksgiving is coming up. That's the holiday of avoiding difficult topics, right? And agreeing to disagree. There's going to be tons of articles online about how to survive the holiday when you disagree with your family, which we all do. We don't agree with everyone on everything. And it works on an individual level, on a level of small groups. But what happens when you get a critical mass of people? When you have a community? So then the stakes change. Because when you have a large group of people, when you have a community, and they're all doing the same thing, there is greater communal pressure, greater social pressure to be the same, to agree, to be like everyone else. And there's greater stakes. The stakes are higher for if you disagree, if you're going to step out of line, if you're going to stand out, if you're going to stand up for something different, the stakes are higher, it's harder, and there are greater repercussions. So how do we navigate this? How do we navigate being part of a community, but also retaining our individuality? And what does Judaism even say about community and individuality. So this is what I want to look at today. So let's dive right in. So from the outset, Judaism is a communally based religion. We can agree on this, I think, right? So when God gave Moses the Torah on Mount Sinai, he gave it to all of us as a nation. We were all there, and the rabbis teach us that every Jewish soul that ever existed in the history of time was there at the foot of the mountain. You were there, I was there, we were all there. So this is like community with a capital C, complete community, not like a lot of other major world religions where there was a personal revelation. One guy said, oh, I heard God talk to me, and then like boom, new world religion. No, we are a communally based religion. And we see this going forward through our history as a Jewish people, like we were in a community in the desert as we were wandering together. During the times of the temples, we gathered together 3 times a year as a community to celebrate the holidays together. And in the diaspora, this communal structure continues to exist. We congregate together to pray. We celebrate our happy events together. We mourn together. There's achdus, there's community, there's togetherness. We are a communally based people. And the rabbis tell us about community and what this means for us. In the Ethics of the Fathers, in chapter 2, paragraph 5, Hillel the elder says, do not separate yourself from the community. Okay, that seems pretty clear cut, right? But then he goes on to say 4 different sentences that are seemingly unrelated. He says, do not trust yourself until the day you die. Do not judge your fellow man until you have stood in his place. Do not say something that cannot be easily understood on the assumption that it will be eventually understood. And do not say, I will study when I have time, because you may not have time. So what's the story with this paragraph? Is this like the equivalent of like a napkin that Hillel was jotting down ideas on when he was, I don't know, sitting around somewhere? No. We know that in Judaism, there's always more beneath the surface. You have the surface level, and then you have a lot of depth underneath. And on h.com, there's a great article by Rabbi Zev Leff that talks about this paragraph. And he says, yeah, right? So he says, not only are these 5 sentences related to each other, but the 4 final sentences are actually in support for the first sentence, the premise of the paragraph. Anyone remember what that first sentence was? Good, yeah, exactly. Do not separate yourself from the community. So let's take a look at these. The second sentence, the first of the final 4 sentences, it's a little confusing. It says, do not trust yourself until the day you die. Okay, harsh, a little bit, but what does this mean? It means that we are not existent independent of our surroundings. You are not a rock, you are not an island, you are in the context of your community, and your community affects you. Now, I had a personal experience with community being exceptionally supportive. There was, if anyone missed my speech yesterday, I'll give you a very, very Cliff Notes version of my background. I wasn't Jewish, then I thought I might be Jewish, then I realized I wasn't Jewish, but then I liked Judaism, so then I converted. Okay, now you're caught up. And when I was first observant, when I was first being religious, everything was amazing, right? Super inspiring. All the time. Woo. We call this the Judaism honeymoon. And I was lucky. It lasted a long time. I was very inspired for a long time. But then, thank God, my family grew, and I started becoming very involved in just like the nitty-gritty day-to-day of taking care of small children and running a household, just all the physical details. And I didn't have as much time to study and nourish that part of myself. And then I had a few experiences in life that were difficult, as we all do. And I went through some challenges where I was like, ugh, why do I have to go through this? And I started to feel disconnected, and I started to feel uninspired. And it was so much so that I would like go to a class, and I would come away from the class going like, meh, that wasn't inspiring. And it was not a good place to be. It was hard, and I felt disconnected, and I didn't feel inspired. And I was still going through the motions, but I felt distant. But all I had to do was go outside my front door, and I was surrounded by people who were still trying to connect, who were still doing the things that I was also doing, and who were there to be able to support me through this time when I was feeling uninspired, when I was not feeling connected. And they helped me remember why I had been inspired and why I wanted to do these things. And I saw the kindnesses that they were doing, and I saw the learning that they were doing. And so it kept me afloat. And then, thank God, when I was back in a place where I was feeling connected, when I was feeling inspired again, was I hadn't lost much ground, because the community bolstered me. And being around people who were able to support me when I was not feeling it helped me get to a place where I was still okay when I got back to feeling it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the next sentence is do not judge your fellow man until you have stood in his place. Now this is like one of my favorite things in the entire Torah. I love this one so much because are we ever in someone else's place? No, we are not, because everyone has their own unique childhood, their own unique personality, their emotional disposition, their physical disposition. We are all completely different, and so you can never really understand someone else's decision-making process or why they do the things they do. If you're married, you can see this very clearly. And right. So Rabbi Leff says that when you're in a community, it's very easy, so easy. You have neighbors, you have coworkers, and you get to know them pretty well, and you start to think that you can make judgments on like why they're making the decisions. You see that, and you're like, oh, why did they do that? Oh, I didn't know they could get a new car. That's interesting. And it's easy to get in a place of judgment. Rav Gav said yesterday in one of his classes that we're like 6 times more likely to think negatively than think positively. And this happens also. We have a tendency to be judgmental. It's also like a protection mechanism. But Rav Leff says don't fall into this trap. Because if you only look at the negative, if you only see the negative in your community, then you're not going to want to be part of the community. Right? You have to go out of your way to see the positive. I read an amazing story that touched on this issue a couple weeks ago. And there was a woman who was in synagogue. It was the holidays, and she was really excited to go pray. She got to her seat, and she was taking out her prayer book, and she was connecting, and all of a sudden she heard this really, really, really loud voice from over here. Really loud. And at first she thought, okay, so good for him. Like, he's really into it. I'm happy that he's connecting. But after a while, it was hard to think so positively. She found herself being more negative and critical and saying, like, does he think he's the only one here? Hello, does he not realize that there are other people who are also trying to pray? This is so annoying. It's so self-centered. What is he doing this for? And during break, she went out. She saw an acquaintance of hers, and they were schmoozing. And this acquaintance said, I'm sure you heard my husband. He's praying very loudly over there because my father is blind and he can't read. And so my husband is praying loudly so he can help my father follow along in the prayers. Okay, who could have seen that coming, right? You don't know. And so when she went back to her prayers and she heard this loud voice again, she had a completely different perspective. Because instead of seeing someone who's annoying and someone who's self-centered, she saw someone who's being selfless, who's doing something that is probably also uncomfortable for him. But he's doing it to help out his father-in-law. So you can't judge someone. You don't know. You have to extend yourself and try to say, maybe there's something I don't see. Maybe there's more to the picture. Maybe there's something I don't understand. And try to reach a place where you can be positive. The next one says, do not say something that cannot be easily understood on the assumption that it can be understood later. I happen to think that that also is a little hard to understand, but let me tell you, it's about communication. And communication, as you probably know, can be tricky. Sometimes you think you're being perfectly clear and still someone does not understand. I had a situation once where I was in the car with someone from Brooklyn. I'm from the Midwest. And we were driving somewhere and she said, can you look in the back and get my loose leaf? So I looked in the back. I did not see any loose leaf papers. So I said, I don't see it. I don't see any loose leaf. And she's like, no, it's right there, the loose leaf. And I looked back again. I did not see any loose leaf papers. So I said to her, I'm sorry, I don't see it. And finally she said, no, the loose leaf binder. And I said, oh, a binder? Oh, it's right there. Let me get it for you. But we were speaking a different language. I didn't know that that's what they called it in that region. It was just different. So Rav Leff says, sometimes when you come into a community, often if you move from one community to another, it can be a physical location, it can be a spiritual relocation, but you come with your own set of opinions and biases and preconceived notions, and sometimes when you come into a new community, you find resistance. You might think that what you're doing is normal, and someone in the community, the new community, might say, oh, that's not how we do it. So of course, what's the natural tendency? You're going to feel defensive. Am I right? Can you see how this might be? So instead of feeling defensive, which is normal, first feel your feelings 100%, but then look at it as an opportunity to say, why do I believe this? Why do I have this preconceived notion? Where is it coming from? Because it's a precious opportunity to really find out why you believe what you believe. Because you don't always know where these things come from. Sometimes you can be open to changing them. There was a hilarious story that I heard about a young couple, and she was making roast for the first time for her husband. And since they were newly married, they were spending all this time together. He was in the kitchen with her, spending all the quality time together, and he watched as she chopped off both ends of the roast and threw them in the garbage. And he was like, what are you doing? Like, meat's not cheap. Like, why are we putting this in the garbage? And she said, well, that's just how my family's always done it. I don't know. That's just what we've done. And he said, okay, that's unexpected. Maybe you should find out why you do that. And so she was talking to her mom, and she said, Ma, why do we cut off the ends of the roasts when we make the roast? And she said, I don't know. That's just how my mother did it. Maybe talk to your grandmother. And so she called her grandmother. She said, Bubby, why do we cut the ends off the roast? Where's this tradition come from? She said, oh, well, when I was newly married, I only had a very small pot, and a whole roast wouldn't fit in the pot. So I had to cut off the ends to make sure it fit in the pot.
You just use the extra meat for chocolate.
I know, right? Exactly. It seems simple to me too. But, you know, so you should have been there with them. You could help them. So we have to know where are our ideas coming from. Why do we do what we do? And so that is an opportunity to introspect and find out why you're doing what you're doing. Now the last one is, do not say, I will study later when I have time, because you may not have time. So right now you're all studying, you're all here, so you should give yourselves a pat on the back. Yay, you're making the time. Good. Yeah, good. And Rev Lev had a very interesting take on this. He said sometimes, if you're in a community, you might feel like the communal obligations that you have of being part of a community might take away from your time to study, and so you might say, I'm going to distance myself from the community. It's taking away from my time to study. Studying is more important, and so I'm going to separate myself from the community. I don't want to be involved. And he said this is a mistake, because you never lose out by doing a mitzvah, and it could be that if you say no to a mitzvah because you're intending to study, you might not get to study anyways. Like, let's say someone asks you to make a meal for someone who just had a baby, and you say, you know, I really want to study, and I'm not going to make this meal, someone else can do it, it's fine. And then what happens, like your toilet backs up or something, and all the time that you would have been spending studying, you're spending taking care of that fun mess. And so you didn't get the mitzvah of making the meal, and you didn't get to study either. He said you never lose out by doing a mitzvah of being involved in the community, so don't use that as an excuse. So don't separate yourself from the community. And Hillel goes on to say that when you look at the community and you look at the individual, the community is stronger, it's more substantial, and community is very slow to change, like glacially slow. And the individual is very quick to change. We can change a lot. I mean, just in the story of my life, you know, in 2003 I graduated from college, not Jewish, and in 2005 or 2006 I'm like learning in Israel in a school. That's a very big change in a very short period of time. The individual can change dramatically. And we should change every year, not maybe that dramatically, but every year we should grow and we should learn. And I hope that every year I'm different than I am the year before. But in the community changes so slowly. And although sometimes it might feel frustrating, it's part of the secret of Jewish continuity. Part of the reason that we're still here is because the strength of our tradition and the power of the community and the communal tradition is a stabilizing force for us. And you can see this. If you take like a Torah scroll in Yemen and a Torah scroll in Brooklyn, they're the same words, even the same ornamentations on the words, on the letters, because the power of our tradition is so strong and it keeps us going. Mark Twain had a famous essay, maybe some of you know it. He visited the Holy Land in the 1800s, and it made such an impression on him. And he wrote this essay that was talking about how, you know, we're a very ancient people, and there were all these other ancient civilizations that existed also at the same time, and they're all gone. The Egyptians, they're gone. The Greeks, they're gone. The Romans, they're gone. We are still here. We are still here, and part of it is because God promised that we would still be here, obviously. And then also the strength of our tradition, the strength of our community. So, community is super important. Have I established this? Okay. So does this mean that we should just always do what everyone else is doing, and we should push down all of our individuality for the sake of the community, and we should only be like everyone else because the community is so important and it's what's keeping us alive as Jewish people? Is individuality even kosher? So let's address this. When I was first looking to convert, and I moved into the Jewish community, I wanted to show the rabbis in charge that I was like really serious and that I was a really good candidate. Please let me be Jewish. And the way that I thought that I should do this was to be like everyone else, right? I was always a very colorful person. I expressed my individuality through like my appearance a lot. So I was colorful from head to toe. But as I moved into the community, I saw people were a little bit more conservative. So I said, okay, let me see how I'm going to do this. And I paid very close attention. It was like anthropology. I paid very close attention to what everyone was doing. What did they wear? How did they spend their free time? What kind of small talk did they make? It sounds a little like creepy when I say it like this, but really it was normal. And I just wanted to be like everyone else. And so I embarked upon that. I was learning Hebrew and I was learning the social cues of the community. But as I was doing this, I made the assumption that I should pretend like anything that had existed in my life before this point didn't exist. Like, shut the door, put it in the back of the closet. If it didn't fit with the new me, then it didn't exist. So basically, my life started in 2005. And I went on like this for years. I went on like this when I got married, when I moved to Cleveland. And although I was fitting in, I was preventing myself from authentically connecting to anything. I wasn't able to authentically connect to other people because I was hiding like my entire past. So you can't make a friendship that way. You're not being honest with people. I was not authentically connecting to myself because I was not able to integrate these parts of my life. And I was not authentically connecting to God. Because I was saying, this is how I should do Judaism based on what everyone else around me is doing, and I wasn't saying, is this how I am supposed to connect to God? Is this how I am supposed to connect to Judaism? So it came to a head when my oldest was 4, and he started to notice that Grandma and Grandpa were a little different than us. And he said, like, oh, why do Grandma and Grandpa do different things? And I said, help. I called my rabbi. I said, what do I do? And he was like, well, of course you should be open with your children. And he helped me see that my past wasn't something to hide, and that if I was meant to be Orthodox my entire life, God would have just had me born into an Orthodox family already. But that was not the journey that my soul was supposed to take. I was supposed to have these experiences, be born into my family, and then come to Judaism later in life with all of the skill sets and the experiences that I have. And I wasn't supposed to hide those and pretend they didn't exist. I was supposed to see what I could integrate into my new life. And so thank God I had that, and it changed everything for me. And I saw how being an individual was crucial. And being an individual is actually in our DNA as the Jewish people. Abraham, our forefather, he was known as Avraham HaIvri. On the other side, what was he on the other side of? The whole world was worshiping idols, and what did he say? He said, no, there's just one God. And not only did he say there's one God, he said, I don't care if you throw me in a furnace, I don't care if you put me in jail, I don't agree with you, I'm gonna be different, there is one God, you can't talk me out of it no matter what you do. It's in our DNA. And we see it also with the 12 tribes. When Jacob, one of our patriarchs, was on his deathbed, he called in his sons to give them blessings. Now, he didn't call them all in at the same time and say, okay, all 12 of you, now you have this like national destiny, go do exactly the same thing. That's not what he did. He called them in individually, and he gave them each an individual blessing based on their own unique personalities, their own strengths, and their own challenges. And as they developed into the 12 tribes, each tribe had its own unique mission. You had the priestly tribe, and you had the tribe that became the kingship, and you had the tribe that was dedicated to commerce, and you had a tribe that was dedicated to learning. They were all different. They had their own flags that were all different to represent their individualism. And we also hear in Proverbs, it says, educate a child according to his way. Because the Torah acknowledges that we are all different. And you have to reach a child, in the way that it's going to speak to him. And you know, if anyone is here in education or is a parent, you see that even kids from the same family can be wildly different in what their needs are. Am I right? So you have to see each kid is an individual, each person is an individual. The Torah acknowledges this. So, if we're going to be an individual, and I forgot, very important, you are the only person who will ever exist with your skill set. We're supposed to say the whole universe was created for me. And this reminds me of something I saw online that said, God created the entire universe and he thought that you were important enough to put one of you in it. This is a very Jewish concept. You are the only person in the history of time that has your unique skill set. You have something that you can bring to the world and the Jewish people that no one else can bring. Okay, so now, community is important, but being an individual is important. So what do we do with these two seemingly contradictory ideas? So first, let's take a look at what does it mean to be an individual. Sometimes people might have the idea that being an individual means doing whatever you want, regardless of what society around you is doing. Just do your own thing, ignore everyone else. So that's not exactly it. Really, being an individual means connecting to yourself on the most fundamental part of yourself, to your very specific, fundamental, basic part of yourself, to the core of yourself. And this means you could look like everyone else, and you could be seemingly doing what everyone else is. You can still be an individual. I saw an amazing idea of this by the Lubavitcher Rebbe on the Torah portion of Naso. This is when the Jewish people are still in the desert, and they make this tabernacle so they can worship God. It's a whole thing to make this tabernacle, if you remember, a whole thing. And when it's finally done, they make a party. And at this party, the princes of every tribe bring a present. And the Torah details it. Every prince gets a paragraph. It says like, Prince so-and-so, son of so-and-so, brings such and such present. Prince so-and-so, son of so-and-so, brings such and such present. They all bring the same thing. The same thing. So why do we need to say it 12 times? We know that Torah is like prime real estate, and we know that it also doesn't waste words. There's no filler. Wouldn't it just be more simple to say, and every prince brought the same present, right? Why does it have to spend all the time? It's pages. Like, you should look at it in the Chumash, in the Torah. It's a lot of space. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe says, yes, it looks like they brought the same thing. It looks identical. Absolutely. But each prince had their own unique intention. Each of them had a different idea and a different meaning for why they gave that same present. It looks the same. You could look the same, but you're still different because you have an individual role. So what do we do with this? What can you take home with you? These are nice ideas. I'm happy that we got to talk about them. But what can you do? How can you take this back with you to your homes, to your communities? What does this mean for you on a day-to-day basis? So there's different personality types. You have some people who they have a tendency to be more on the conformist type, right? If there's a choice to do something the same as everyone else or different, they're going to be the same. Being different, stepping out of line makes them nauseous. They don't want to do it. It's scary. Please, no, let me just be like everyone else. Fine. So there's other people who are more on the non-conformist side. If everyone's going right, they're going to go left. Everyone's wearing blue, they're going to wear orange. They want to be like different. So, and then of course sometimes we are all on the spectrum depending on different choices that we have to make, but we tend to be on one side or the other. So if you're the more conformist type, then when you're in a situation where you have to make a choice, what could be a situation in life where you have to decide to be with the community or not? Anyone have any ideas? Like, no one? Okay, fine. What about like kids' birthday parties? You can tell this is the situation in life that I'm in. My kids are little. It's birthday party season all the time. And so some people are having like over-the-top birthday parties, but it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for your family, your kid doesn't like big parties, but you feel like maybe they're going to feel left out if you do something different. So you have a choice. You can do something like everyone else, even though you know it may not be right for your kid, and you're just doing it because of social pressure, or you could say, no, this isn't right for me, it's uncomfortable to be different, I don't like it, but this is what's right for me. You have to introspect and ask yourself, am I making this decision just because everyone else is doing it, or am I making this decision because it's right for me? So that's one challenge. If you're on the other end of the spectrum, you're more of a nonconformist, so then you have to ask yourself the opposite question. Am I making this decision just because it's different from everyone else, or is this a decision that is right for me? I had this experience with when our family grew big enough that we needed something more than a sedan. It was either get a minivan or get an SUV. And for some reason, I didn't want to get a minivan. I just could not do it. So I was like, I'm not there. And so I was like, we got an SUV. We got a Chevy Traverse. It's great. It seats 8. I love it. Except I really wish now that I had a minivan. You get the automatic doors also. Do you know, like if you park with baby car seats and the doors open like this, it's really hard if it's tight parking space. Like it's a good workout, fine. But I wish I had a minivan, and I had made that decision only because I didn't want to be like everyone else. So that is a time when I would have benefited from saying, why am I making this decision? Learn from me, don't be like me. Or, you know what I mean. So, fine. When we are able to tap into our individualism, when we're able to make sure that we're making the decisions based on what is good for us and not just because we're doing it like everyone else or not like everyone else, so not only is it good for us, it's also good for the Jewish people. We're helping ourselves and we're helping the community. On a personal note, I had this experience when I have a degree in clarinet performance. Yes, it's very practical. I did have a plan to do something with this, but then I became from whatever, thank God. So I thought that this degree with clarinet performance was something that I wasn't going to be able to use. Classical music, what are the days that usually have classical concerts? Friday nights and Saturdays. Obviously, this was a conflict with my new lifestyle. So I thought, fine, I'm just not going to use this ability, whatever. So fast forward, I'm at a school in Israel at Neve Yerushalayim. I'm having a meeting with the principal, Rabbi Moshe Shalkovsky. He finds out I play the clarinet and he asks me, do you practice every day? And I say, no. And he says, with his British accent, which makes it like 15,000 times more intimidating, He was like, why not? I was like, panic, panic, panic. I figured I should come up with a safe answer, so I said, because I'm here to learn Torah. Sounded like a safe answer. It was not a safe answer. Because he said, he started like stroking his beard, long white beard, and he said, you girls, you become religious, you think you can leave everything behind. That's not the way to do it. You have to practice every day. So I didn't actually practice every day after that because it's very hard to be that disciplined, but the message stayed with me. So something I'm supposed to use. This is an unusual ability that I have. It's different from most other people. Most other people do not have a high level of clarinet proficiency, but it's something that I'm supposed to use in my life. I'm supposed to find a way to use it in my life. And thank God I've been able to. I've been able to do performances in my community, and I've been able to use my musical skills for the community. It benefits me, it benefits the community. On a larger scale, there was a woman in Krakow, Poland in the 1920s named Sarah Schneerer. She was a seamstress. And in Poland at that time, there was a phenomenon going on where all of the boys were being educated on a high level in Judaic studies. Not all of them, a good number of them. They had a high level of Judaic knowledge. And the girls went to public school, and whatever they learned at home is what they learned. So what happened is, as they grew up, the boys ended up over here, and the girls ended up over here, and the boys didn't want to get married to the girls, and the girls didn't want to be married to the boys, and it was a problem. So Sarah Schneerer saw this problem, and she said, I have an idea. Why don't we start educating the girls? We can start a teacher's school, we can start educating the girls so they have a higher level of knowledge of Judaic studies, and that'll solve the problem. Sounds like a good idea, but people were like, what are you talking about? That's not how we do it. It's not necessary. We don't need to do it that way. And she could have said, okay, the community doesn't want it, fine, and just go back to being a seamstress. But she felt so strongly, and she did something that's crucial. When you feel like you need to do something against the community, something different, she went and got advice. She went to someone who was objective, who was wise. She went to very holy rabbis. And this is something that is so important. If you find yourself in a situation where you need to do something different, get advice. Go to someone who is objective, who is wise, and who can help you talk through it and help you see, is this the right course of action? So she went to these rabbis, she got blessings from them, and she started the Beis Yaakov movement, which now has changed the face of education for Jewish girls. There's these high schools and seminaries, like post-high school institutions around the world. And because she stepped out and because she said, this is uncomfortable, it's different what everyone else is doing, but I'm going to do it, she helped the Jewish community and she changed the face of the Jewish people. Something else that's very important when you're being yourself and when you're finding out and you're being introspective into, am I doing this? Is this what's good for me? Is you have to also not compare yourself to other people. You are unique. You have the skill set that you need. Don't look at other people. I know this is not so easy. It's so easy to say, oh, I wish I was like my sister-in-law. I wish I was like that neighbor. They're so put together. Their kids are always clean. You know, just hypothetically. And this is a trap that we can't fall into. For sure, be inspired by people, 100%. But don't compare yourself to people. Don't say, I wish I was like that person. God didn't make you like that person. God made you like you. There was a book I read not so long ago about, there was a woman named Henny Machlis in Jerusalem. Okay, right. Famous for hosting just hundreds of people in her little apartment for Shabbos all the time. Tremendous, tremendous person. And I read this book and I was inspired, but I also started feeling bad about myself. Like I have a hard time having like one guest. I was like, ugh, I'm being such a bad Jew. Like I can't do anything even remotely close to this person. Then I remembered, that's okay. God gave me this disposition. I don't have the personality type to be able to do that at all. I get stressed out too easily. And I'm not expected to be like that. But I can still be inspired by it. I can still say, how can I improve this aspect of my connection to Judaism? How can I improve hospitality? What can I do on my level? I'm not going to be like that. I'm not supposed to be like that. But what can I do on my level to improve my own connection to that particular thing? We can be inspired. And there's a famous story about Reb Zusha of Anapoli or Hanapol. On Wikipedia it says both, so I think I'm covered either way. So it was in Ukraine in like the 1700s. He was a very holy chassid, and there are a lot of stories about him. One story is that on his deathbed, he was crying, he was so upset, he was scared, and his students were saying to him, Reb Zusha, why are you so upset? You're so holy, you've done so many good deeds. Surely when you get to heaven, you're going to be fine. And he said, no, I'm worried. I'm not worried that when I get to heaven, God's going to ask me, Zusha, why weren't you like Moshe? Why weren't you like Moses? Zusha, why weren't you like King David? I'm worried that he's going to say, Zusha, why weren't you like Zusha? We're not supposed to be like other people. We're supposed to be like ourselves. We're supposed to do what we're supposed to do. And when we do this, it's like an orchestra. Every member of the orchestra has their own unique role. They have their own part they're supposed to play. The clarinet plays this part, the flute plays this part, the violins play this part. Now, if they play them all whatever they want without the rules of the orchestra, does it sound good? No, it does not sound good. Although my husband likes the part where they're all warming up and it sounds a little bit like disparate, but that's fine. He can like that. Really, we're supposed to play our own individual parts within the context of the greater community. So find your individualism within the context of the community, and I give you all a blessing that you should always have the wisdom and the understanding and the guidance to know how to tap into your own unique abilities within a community that appreciates you, and we should all have that clarity and go forward and make the world a better place with our own unique abilities. Thank you.
You know, with the 12 Nisim that you do, I saw that the fact is that repeated it over again because they didn't try to do something different.
Oh, interesting.
Everybody, no one wanted to like outdo the next guy.
Oh, interesting.
And they all just went, you know, you make a chasna, like, oh, we're going to make this. No, they all said, we're going to do the same thing.
So
and
interesting.
it was that important that Hashem put in the Torah 12 times.
The sensitivity that they were like trying to be like sensitive to each other and not outdo each other.
Right.
It's beautiful. I love that. Thank you. That's a great part.
Thank you so much
Hi.
for your inspiration. My mother was here for Shabbos, but she left, and she said, I have to come to this lecture, even though I chose to come to this lecture because she had two questions.
Yeah.
One is the pictures or the whatever, Newman, those families.
Yeah, nothing.
Sure.
No Jews.
Unreal.
No Jews. I know, right?
And how did your parents react?
So thank God my parents, at first they thought it was a phase, obviously.
Right.
They're like, oh, cute, whatever. And then like after I like went to Israel and then got married and started having kids, they're like, oh, maybe not a phase. And thank God they're very supportive. Like they see the community is such a Kiddush Hashem. Like they see the way the community takes care of each other. And like my dad says, like this is amazing. Like it's like old world. Like people take care of each other. He's so grateful that we have this community.
God, we have tremendous nachas from you.
Yeah,
like I'm saying.
exactly.
It's like
and my husband's such a mensch, and
unbearable.
it's
Right.
thank God.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. Not everyone is so lucky.
I'm talking to her to Queens. We run Jane's Wife Queens.
Yeah.
I think you asked me a question that I was going to ask her
About-
about her
about
relationship. No, about her relationship with her family.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they're coming to me for Thanksgiving because like because I obviously can't go to them. So
Thanksgiving
like,
is a hug.
yeah, it is exactly.
Thinking about coming to America at all?
But to come into Queens,
Yeah, I'm
like,
saying.
I mean, maybe I have to say like my kids are so. My oldest is only 10, you know, so
Right.
it's like it's
it's
hectic. It's hard to get out. Yeah,
Now,
right.
can
It's
I
a big
take
thing
your
that my husband let me come.
contact
Yeah, absolutely.
We're always booking things.
But I can do like trips like not over Shabbos, but like
Yeah,
during the
during
week.
the week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
where do you live?
Cleveland.
Oh, Cleveland.
Yeah, it's not so close. 314-686-0066. What's your name?
Okay, Tova Begun and Julie Aronovich.
Hi. Very nice.
Baltimore, Queens. Okay.
All right.
Where do your parents live?
They live in St. Louis.
So how far is that?
From Cleveland? It's like 9 hours. Edie, I have to thank you. I'm sorry, just a second. I have to thank you. I heard that you're the reason that they brought me in. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm so grateful.
And now you're coming to our house in Brooklyn. I'm so excited. She's like, she'll stay by me. I'm like, well, I have all the baby toys and all the little kids.
Oh.
So whatever, you have to decide.
5.
You too.
And they're labor digs, so like, you know.
It's okay. Meet hers. They're all boys. I have one girl in there.
Okay, so good.
My house is like a jungle gym.
Oh yeah, I bought a trampoline for my basement because like I was like winter is long in Cleveland and like I need something for the
They
boys.
make their own.
Yeah, well that's why I got the trampoline because like the couch
So they
is like
shouldn't, right?
yeah, exactly.
I hear you.
Exactly.
It's actually
Yeah.
creative solutions.
I haven't put it together yet though, so like that actually fits in my basement because my basement's not that
She
big.
has been bucket over there. Takes up your basement.
No, but I close it during the week because
Yeah,
they need
you have
for
to.
time.
When are you going home?
I know. Today sometime at like I don't know 2, 3 something. Yeah.
This was amazing.
It really was.
This is amazing for me to be here. Thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you.
I think this Shabbos was
It was incredible. It was incredible. Kol hakavod.
Even
Kol
for one
hakavod.
person.
Yeah, exactly. It's the whole world. It's the whole world.
Seriously, if you're ever in New York, you need a
I
place
know
to
it's
stay.
what
Let me get your
Rebno's
number.
wife.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Rebno's wife.
Yeah.
Is a Sarashira. She was American, went back.
Stop. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. Here, let me just get.
That's great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, hold on.
I spelled my name funny.
It's okay.
H-U-R.
You're allowed
You know,
to.
she did the holiday.
Yeah. But today, like today, but
I
it was amazing. It was amazing.
I just help. She's the creative one. She just says, put this
Well,
here.
you
and
need
I
all,
say, done.
but you need. I mean, you need both types. Do you know what I mean?
Right, I can't. She's like, if we dip the pretzels in chocolate, I'm like, I don't know what it's gonna look like. I said, when I dip things, it usually just makes a big fat mess. That's what you want me to do. We really had fun.
It was so geschmack. It was really
she's
nice.
Like, wheat stalks. I'm like, why would we put wheat on a table? Okay, whatever. I'll put the wheat on the table. I have no creativity. She doesn't need to, but we had a good time together. I love working with her. I think that's why I do it.
Yeah, no, it's
So
when you have a
hang
good
out
team.
with her.
Yeah, no, that's the team that I worked with the Chalabig in Cleveland. Also, it's because they're just so fun to work with. Yeah. So what's your numbers, Zahava?
917.
Yeah.
239.
Yeah.
2511.
2511. Okay. If I'm ever, I don't know when, but you never know.
Make you there.
Okay.
We're gonna make
Okay.
it. We're gonna make it happen.
Thank you so much. All right. Hi. Hi.
Great stuff.
Thanks.
Very.
Appreciate it.
I came with my wife to your
My keynote
feature.
thing. Yeah. Right.
So I was just curious because my wife and I were originally from New York.
Yeah.
And I guess FFB